So much fun. So I always love having you back on. I always love hearing you talk. You have the best accent.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
I know people say Americans have an accent. I'm like, no, we don't. We sound
Yes.
boring. We sound boring.
No, it's such an accent that we see in so many TV and movies and things that and my kids, my boys, if they'd be listening through the door, they think, "Wow, this is exciting!" It's like I've fallen or
Um,
I've fallen into the
my
movie.
daughter, she thinks this is the coolest thing ever, and she tells people what I do, and they're like, "What?"
Yeah, no, it is cool.
It is cool. Okay, well, let's share you with Amazon. Hey, Amazon, welcome back. Today, I'm so excited to introduce you to Zoe Folbigg again. We've had her on before, and she is
Yeah.
definitely a treat. She is from the UK, so I always love bringing other authors in that maybe you may not be seeing on the day to day here in the US because they're UK authors. And so, Zoe is a hidden gem, one of my favorites, and her books are just contemporary and full of just rich, just like divine. So you're going to love her books. So welcome, Zoe. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello, thank you for having me back, Erin. I think we talked in the summer, didn't we? And it was so lovely. It was just like the time flew, but
Yeah.
it's so nice to have me back. Thank you. I'm the author of 5 books now. My 5th book came out just
Yes.
a few. Oh yeah, you've got most of the others there.
Yes.
So my debut was The Note, which that was a bestseller because it really kind of touched. Um,
So beautiful. This cover.
Yes, it was a London love story, really, but it was based on the true story of how I met my husband on our daily commute into London on the train. And it was more of a traditional romance, boy meets girl, sliding doors and missed opportunities. And I think the book really resonated at the time. It came out in 2017, and I think at the time people just wanted a bit of feel good. And that did really well. And since then, I've had a book a year pretty much. Yeah. And this is my 5th, The Three Loves of Sebastian Cooper. And that came out last week. And this is more of, or shall I go into it now, or should we talk
Yes.
about it?
Dig in. Yes.
So this is more of a roller coaster, really. From where I began, my first book, The Note, was a kind of straight up romance, but this is more of a heart wrenching story because it begins at a funeral, and so that the protagonist, Sebastian Cooper, that he's come to an end. It's his funeral. He's died. But it goes from present day at his funeral and then the wake afterwards. We call it a wake in the UK. Do you call it a wake? The kind of party after, or the celebration of life after a funeral. The present day tells a story of the funeral and the wake, but most of the story, the majority, goes back in time, telling the story of the 3 loves of his life. 3 women who were in the congregation and who he had big sweeping romances, or perhaps not. It goes back and tells the story of these 3 kind of quite interesting, powerful women. I really enjoyed writing the 3 very different women, 3 very different relationships, from his first love and the mother of his children, to a woman who he had a relationship with in between, to the woman who he was with at the time of his passing. And then a mystery runs through it about, or how did he die, which I hope that readers kind of keep going with, and then they get to at the end and realize how he died. So it's a bit of a mystery, and it's 3 romances really in one book. So it's quite the roller coaster because we're dealing with obviously love, but also grief. So
How hard was that to write 3 romances in one book? That's a skill set right there.
it was hard, but because they were so different and the women were so different, it was really enjoyable because, and this is what gave me the idea. I thought, there are so many different types of love and so many different types of relationship. So to write 3 very different, the hardest thing was how I was going to transition from one relationship to the next, without making him unlikable, or without. I wanted the reader to still have kind of to be rooting for him. So so that was the hardest thing, was either perhaps overlapping or transitioning from one relationship to the other without him seeming callous. But actually the relationships themselves were really fun to write, because I could just tap into different relationships that we see all around us, so it was really, I really loved writing it, and especially such three very different women. It was it kind of made it feel like a richer book to have three such strong characters for the women.
I feel like your writing has evolved when you can write all these different characters and never break their character, never slide one into the other. I mean, it was seamless. And
Oh, thank
being
you.
able to keep that straight had to have been really difficult, writing from that person's point of view, their story each time, and not, oh, switching from one to the next and mixing them up. I feel like I would mix them up.
I think because their backgrounds were so different, and there were three women, I deliberately made them from three very different places, and I deliberately made them have three very different styles and three different characters, and their careers were all very different. If I'd have had three women who work in a corporate sphere, who look quite similar, perhaps because he had a type. Well, I didn't want to do that because that would have been harder. So for one to be his kind of wholesome childhood sweetheart, another one to be a really driven architect, who he meets in his work world. So there's no overlapping there. And then the third love, to be someone who's just completely different. I mean, I don't want to give too many spoilers,
Yeah.
but she's just a completely different.
How do we say?
So it was kind of easy not to overlap them, because they were all so different. But I imagine if it had been a relationship, if Seb had had three relationships that were all in his work world. I mean, he's an architect in the book, so if the three loves in the story had been three architects, that would have been a lot harder, and it wouldn't have been as interesting, I think, because I found, and I hope that for the reader as well, the kind of juxtaposition of these women, being so different. I think that sort of makes it more interesting and drives it along. So, yeah.
Where did your love of reading and writing begin? I know we have a lot of new people on that are meeting you. And also, hey, Kendra, thanks for watching. Kendra said, Zoe is the best author, so talented. I love the note, and she's the love guru.
Oh, thank you, Kendra. You're a sweetheart. Yeah, bless you. Yeah, my love started when I was a kid, really. And I don't know if I said this before, but I do feel that this is why we should listen to our our childish selves, and kind of, what did I like to do as a child? When people are at a bit of a crossroads and they don't know what to do in their career, and people say, well, listen to what did you love, dig deep into your past, and actually what I loved was making up stuff, was writing stories. And I would write stories for my school friend, and scribble down on a piece of paper one evening back at home the start of a story, and it would generally involve a pop star or someone she fancied, someone in a band. And then, she'd get to meet him, and it would be amazing. It would kind of be like a fan fiction type thing. And I'd take it to school the next day and give it to my friend Claire and say, here's the latest installment, and she'd be desperate to read it. Is this the day she's going to get together with the guy in the band? So that kind of thing, and just knowing that she was waiting on tenterhooks for those updates and those stories, that was really lovely. So I think that's where kind of that came from, the joy of just going off into my head and creating a world where anything could happen. I could get to fly if I wanted, or my friend could meet the pop star she liked, or, anything could happen. I could have, I could live in a marshmallow world or something, you could do anything. And so I loved that escape in my brain, and then seeing it make my friends so happy.
And is Claire now? Is she devouring all of your books?
He lives in Australia now, and in fact, I did part of one of my books is set in Australia, and yeah, she's we're still friends, so it's lovely. But sadly, we live on opposite sides of the world. But yeah, yeah, so it's quite funny that
She gets to
um,
say, "Do you remember when you were writing those stories and now you have whole books? Five
and
whole."
she remembers the stories that I wrote about this specific guy out of a band that was popular in the UK. I don't know if you had this band called Wet Wet Wet. I don't know if you had if they were big in America, but they were big when I was a kid, and you know, I used to write stories for her about that and about us, you know, meeting them backstage. And anyway, she loved it, and yeah,
You
she
were
loves my book.
fanfic before it was a thing.
I know, isn't that weird? Isn't that weird?
I created that.
Yeah, I started the whole genre.
Started
But
here.
then I just loved writing, and then I ended up working for magazines and editing, and just loving stories in all forms, you know, short or long, or um, and then it was when my true life story of how I met my husband, when I started writing about that, and people said, you know, wow, that sounds like an entire novel. Then I thought, oh, actually, yeah, I think I could write a novel based on it, and then I did. So that's where it started, really. How about you? When did you start writing?
I remember, okay, so something you said really triggered a memory in me. I always remember playing like make believe as a kid, you know,
Yeah,
dollhouse. I mean, just making up stories of people, kind of like
yeah,
playing house, you know, and just my dollhouse and things like that. And I always remember making up people and stories and places and worlds,
hmm
and I thought that was normal. Like I thought everyone did that. Apparently they don't. And then I started writing. I liked to write in high school, but I had a teacher who told me that my grammar was terrible and I'd never be a writer. And I was like, oh, okay, so I'm not going to be a writer. So I just kind of moved on and
mm,
had to like have fantastic grammar to be a writer, which by the way,
mm.
the funny thing is, you actually don't. That's why we have fantastic editors.
Yeah,
So if anyone
exactly.
there is like, I can't write because my grammar is terrible, that's fine. Everything can be
Mm,
edited. Somebody can show you the way.
yeah,
We can all have
absolutely.
yoga. And so I always wrote stories on my computer, and I started working at a jail like
Mm,
15 years ago, and
wow.
I would write stories on the computer, and for school I would write short stories, and I just thought
Was
everyone
it
did.
crime, or was there anything related to being at the jail? Like,
No, actually, they were
yeah,
really terrible books. I still have them
right,
on my computer, and I laugh every time I think of them.
right.
They were not about a jail, but I
Right.
liked strong women characters, and I would write stories, and then, you know, life gets busy, and you just kind of keep writing little stories here and there, and then I always said in the back of my head, if I won the lottery, I'd be a writer. And then I was
Mm-hmm.
like, why do you have to win the lottery to be a writer?
Yeah, yeah,
You already pretty much win the lottery if you get to be a writer, in my opinion.
yeah.
So I a couple years ago, I think in 2017, I kept having this story of this place in New Hampshire in my head, and I kind of mapped it out into this whole world of people, and then it just like I just thought everybody did that, and nobody.
Yeah,
I think writers do that, and so
yeah.
then in 2021 I was like, you know what, this I'm just going to see if I can just write the whole manuscript start to finish because I've never done that, and I love a
Mhm,
challenge and I love learning, so I you know learned a lot of the beats
mhm.
and the arc and everything, and just figured out how to make it not a dumpster, and
Yeah,
that's I did, and then I thought, okay, and then I very quickly wrote the second one, and then
yeah.
I'm the third, and it just I don't know, it just took off.
So with your series, the Falling in Love book,
Hmm.
that's obviously book one.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
don't have a
This is book one.
this is Erin's book. Congratulations, because your book came out the same week as mine, didn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So congratulations, we're book launch buddies.
Yeah.
Um, but so you've already written the whole series, have you?
No. So I'm on the third one right now, and then a fourth and fifth popped up.
Wow. Oh, wow.
And I haven't told anyone that yet, so oops,
Yeah.
it is. So
Wow.
I I just all of a sudden I was like, I can see it. Like I see my books cinematically. I can see how they turn out, and And all
Yeah.
of a sudden I saw the fourth, and then as I was thinking about the fourth, the fifth popped out, and I was like, oh, I think there's two more. And
Wow.
I
Yeah.
I think it'll be a little while before I can write those because I have a deadline for something trad. But I I think I'm having a really good time with it, and the I really honestly, Zoe, I thought maybe three people would read this, maybe my mom included,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
overwhelmed with the reception that I've received as a debut author because I'm so humbled. I'm like, wow, you guys took a chance on my
Yeah.
first book baby that I you know must have edited like nine.
Lovely. And I think, but because there are, and also, I mean, what you do for the community of readers and authors, people want to hear it because you're such a champion of other authors and writers. So I think people are going to want to get behind you, and I can't wait to read it. It's next on my TBR. But that's amazing that you've got the ideas. And it's funny what you're saying about how you think cinematically, because I do too.
Yeah,
And sometimes I even have a song in my head when I'm writing a scene. I could imagine it if it were on the screen. I can imagine the sweeping music that would be there with it
yeah.
too, or a song can kind of inspire me to put a certain scene into a book. So it's quite interesting that you say that you almost have this cinematic kind of vibe going on while you're writing. So that's interesting.
What's crazy is also so many people made TikToks and Instagram reels about the characters, and they
Right.
showed
Oh,
stock photos that they saw as.
yeah.
And I never put any of that out there. I never
Hmm.
made a single trailer or anything. I
Hmm.
knew in my head who they were, but
Yeah.
how they matched it in my head to theirs was almost mirrored. And so I
Oh,
thought, okay, I
wow.
have done my job explaining these characters because they really put together these beautiful trailers of all the everything that happened in the book. And that was really kind of fun to see how people on I never envisioned the how it's gone on TikTok and
Oh,
how people
brilliant.
have made I look on there every day and I'm like, first of all, I had to learn how to TikTok because I'm basically old. And I would go on there and be like, oh my gosh, I think this book is about mine. And they would make a TikTok about my book and I was like, oh my gosh. And then they would make the characters and pull things from the book and I'd be like, oh, that's really good. And then I'd be like, oh, I wrote that.
That's brilliant. Oh, that's so good. And TikTok, I mean, this is the thing. So, in fact, Kendra, who, if it's the Kendra, I think she might be,
Maybe.
is an amazing TikToker, and has just created a big, just such a community for what she does on TikTok is amazing.
If that's
If
you,
it
Kendra, drop your at handle in there. I'd love to see your TikTok. I
She's yeah, she's amazing. She's amazing. Yeah, a solo traveler and does a lot of things about traveling on her own and is really intrepid. So
that
she's a
sounds
bit
like
of a
a book idea.
she's given me a lot of book ideas. So yeah, she's amazing. So yeah.
So what are you currently working on?
So at the moment, I am working on edits for my 2023 book,
Yeah.
and they've just come back from my editor, and I'm really excited because she feels it's my best book yet. I mean, she's a massive champion of this,
Yes.
but she feels it's even better, and I'm just so happy because I'm
That
really proud of it.
goosebumps because I felt like this one was your best one yet.
Oh yeah, yeah.
As a writer and a reader, your craft in this book was I mean, I was reading it going, I don't know how she kept all of this together.
Oh,
And
thank
I would
you.
accidentally made I don't know, I would have slipped in my
Right.
answers and you just nailed it. So if it's better than this
Well, thank you. That's really.
one,
I felt like after this, I had a slight worry, thinking I'm not sure I can write anything as good as this because I feel like, oh
yeah,
gosh, have I peaked, kind of thing. Because it is the three stories and the mystery woven through it, and
yeah.
I thought I just don't know if I can be that clever or if I can. Anyway, my editor really loves it, and I'm so pleased because it's a bit of a leap in that it's It's part set in New York, and so it's the first book that I've ever set in America at all. So I was kind of a little bit nervous about that. I don't know why. I think maybe because people are so. I do have elements of travel in all of my books, but because I suppose the note was such a kind of London love story.
Hmm.
Um, I sort of thought, well, can I write about New York? I've been to New York lots of times and I love it. Well, not lots of times, but a handful of times, and I absolutely love it. Can I set part of a story there and it feel authentic? But it's part set in New York and part set in London, and I really enjoyed writing it, and my editor really loves it, so I'm so pleased. I'm just about to dive into edits for that. That's coming out next year. So yeah, that's what I'm working on. It's been a bit crazy really, because I had the launch party for this last week, and you, I mean, you know what it's like because you've been going through it, and there's so much to do when your book's launching. Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Because you've done the physical, you've written 100,000 words or whatever it is, and that takes so much time and energy. So when it actually comes out, you've done the hard work, you've done it. But then actually, you need to be on TikTok and on Instagram and on Twitter and doing all the other things that go with it. And so it's a funny thing, a launch day, isn't it? A publication day, because it's sort of like it's your birthday
Yeah.
because you're celebrating
But you're
your baby going out into the world. To work for it, so you just kind of sit on your phone, kind of, you know, engaging with people who are being lovely, and like all those lovely TikToks that you had for
yeah.
falling in love. I think it's quite funny, isn't it, that then you're responding to that and you're engaging with readers and people supporting you. So it's a funny old thing, isn't it? And quite exhausting launching a
Yes.
book when actually the hard work was all the months leading up to that when you're writing. So it's a funny thing, isn't it?
I think people have such a misconception about authors, and I know I did. I think
Yeah,
it used to be, you wrote the book, you sent it off, and the publishing house just did everything.
yeah.
That is not how this is.
No,
It is like shoveling snow when it's snowing and there's no end. And you're always working on a work in progress and you're
yeah,
always trying to market and always
yeah.
trying to grow and always trying to keep up with everything. And I feel like when everything's important, nothing's important.
Yeah, yeah, you're right, because it's always ongoing. You're always evolving. You're always plotting. I'm thinking about multiple stories at the same time, because I was launching this and thinking about all the characters. Yeah, I'm thinking about my New York and London love story for next year. Yeah, at the same time, I'm plotting my seventh book in my head. I'm starting the seeds of that. So I've got three different stories running around in my head at the minute, while also needing to promote the book that's just come out because you want it to reach your audience. It never really ends. Plus reading, I mean, I really struggle at the minute to read. I'm having to listen to stuff quite a lot on Audible, because it's just, I think with audiobooks you can kind of, you know, do two things at once. And but even when I'm the time that I'm on my own, which is apart from when I'm writing, it's quite rare because, you know, like you, I have kids,
Yeah.
um, and the time when I'm on my own is when I'm running or exercising, and then I'm not physically writing, so I'm thinking about what I'm going to plot, and that's then actually quite a good opportunity to listen to an audiobook and listen to someone else's work, because I still want to be supportive of peers and see what other authors are doing, and be supportive of them. So it's a really, it never stops. You know, at midnight on a Sunday, I'm thinking about book stuff, and it'll be the same for you, I'm sure.
Same. Wake up and you're like, I got to write that in my notes.
Yeah,
I also listen to a lot of music and get ideas for scenes and things like that.
yeah,
And it's just so fun to combine music and words and all that. So,
yeah, yeah,
do
yeah.
you have a playlist with this one?
Oh, do you know what? I haven't yet with this one, but I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Um, no, I don't yet. But that's something that I noticed an author. who I know, Holly Miller, had a book called The Sight of You that did really well, on both sides of the Atlantic. She posted a playlist for her book, on Instagram, and I remember thinking that was a genius idea. Um, One comes more easily to me for the note, because a lot of the two characters, they kind of coincide at gigs in London, and but without knowing it. So they're both at a Jack White plays at Hammersmith Apollo, a venue in London, and they're both at this Jack White gig, and the song, the White Stripes covered, I just don't know what to do with myself, that song. Um, and that pops up in it, and there are some Bjork songs in it,
Oh,
and
make some playlists and share it. I
yeah,
that
so
I loved
the,
when books have that. I always go and look and see, okay, what songs went with this? What works with this?
yeah,
Yeah.
there's a song, that in one scene, so Maya, my protagonist, she's on the train, she's listening to music, and,
Sorry.
and
Amazon's making a delivery, so my dog's letting me know. Molly, no, sorry.
there's a song by, I don't know if you know PJ Harvey at all, but she, has this beautiful song called "We Float," and it's such a lovely, dramatic, lovely song that I put it into a scene in the book, and then I had to listen to it while I was writing certain scenes, just to sort of, keep me going. So I've definitely got a playlist for the note, but I haven't done that for this yet, and that's a
Uh,
great idea for me to do that. How
I
about you,
it's
Falling in Love?
Oh yeah, I have playlists for all three.
Have you?
I'm
Yeah.
a music person though. Music person. A
Yeah.
couple questions we have. Kendra asks, "Who is your favorite lover of Sebastian's and why?"
Oh,
That's a good question. I
I
don't
think,
know. There's different reasons for different. I don't know.
yeah, it's hard to choose a favorite. That's a really good question,
Yeah.
Ken. And I have to not give any spoilers, with this answer. Um, oh gosh, would I be giving a spoiler if I said I think his first two loves, I kind of love them in different ways. So Claire, who is his childhood sweetheart and, the mother of his children. I love her because she's so solid and reliable and practical. She's a nurse. She's a caring person, and she has quite a hard time of it in the story. So I'm kind of championing her, but also Desiree, uh, the second love of
Yeah,
his life.
I like.
Um, I really love her because she's got such an interesting backstory, and I love that she's a brilliant, successful architect. She's a real independent traveler. She's, I really like her honesty. So I think the two of them, without giving any spoilers away on the third love, but she probably isn't someone that I'd want to go on holiday with, or that but yeah, definitely the first two. That's hard. That's kind of like asking which is my favorite book, really, choosing between the characters as well.
Wendy asks, Zoe, do you feel you have an equal amount of readership in the UK and the US, or is it just more bust in England?
Well, that's a good question. I'd say probably the UK. I have a bigger readership because, um, the story, but then it was a big story in America. The whole story about how I met my husband, that ended up being on The Way We Met. I don't know if you know that Instagram. In fact, that's how I met Kendra. And it went viral. And George Takei, the guy from, Star Wars, George Takei, was it Star Wars? Star Trek.
Star Trek.
Um,
I say Star Trek.
yeah, Star Trek. He shared it. He loved it. So actually, I probably have, more of my book readers in the UK, but more people will know about the whole Train Man backstory in the US. But I mean, this book was the first that came out simultaneously in the UK and the US on the same day on Amazon, and yeah, I've had lovely comments and feedback from people in the US and in Canada. So I'm hoping to even it up a bit, really, because I feel that these stories can cross an ocean, literally. So I feel that there's no barrier really.
This needs to be adapted for film.
Oh, thank you.
This one, I saw it. I was like,
Yeah,
I don't know why these rights haven't been snatched up because this is
yeah.
going to be an Amazon Prime, a Netflix, a Hulu,
Oh,
something. I I just see it. I saw it cinematically as I read it, and I thought,
thank you.
holy cow, this is people are going to talk about this. They're going to be like, yeah, I read that and
Wow.
saw that.
Oh, thank
And
you.
so
Thank you.
if
I
you
hope so.
I would read this now because this will I think I just can see it. I think it will be that some books are books and some books are movies and this was
Oh,
and I thought
thank
like
you.
yeah.
Yeah, that's really lovely of you. I mean, I am speaking to a TV producer who so the note was optioned for film and then for TV, and he feels that my work is pretty cinematic and has a good chance. So it's with him now. So we shall see. Fingers crossed. It's just so many hurdles to leap, really, to get something made. But yeah, fingers crossed, because I
Cross.
can see it in my head
Yeah.
that it could really work. So
Yeah.
hopefully,
Well,
I'm
I
glad you.
immediately I thought, wow, I see this. This is phenomenal. So, what advice would you have for an aspiring author?
Um, to write. That sounds ridiculous, but just carve out time. Find the time, because there's never a good time, because there's always other things. I don't know if you find this, but writing can sometimes feel a bit self-indulgent. It's like, oh, well, if I take myself off and go and write, well, there are other things I should be doing to benefit the family or the home, or so there's a guilt associated with just closing yourself off and writing, for me anyway, and I imagine for you. But so I'd say carve out time, go and just, if you have a really busy office job and it's really hard to find any time, then set your alarm an hour earlier. And, even if you have to be quite restrictive about when you write, I had to write because I have two young boys. I had to write in the school day. Most of my writing, most of these books were written while they were at school, which was hard sometimes because it's quite a short day for writing. And sometimes I wouldn't get into the flow of things until 2 p.m. And then I have to down tools and pick them up at 3. And but still, any time that you can steal, I'd say steal, because if you wrote for 1 hour a day, or if you wrote 1 page a day, then you have a book in a year anyway. So I'd say carve out the time. And I've said before that I really believe that words breed words, and the more you write, the more it snowballs. I don't know if you found that. I mean, yeah, you probably have found that, because you've suddenly gone from one book to 5 and 7. You end up writing 1,000. But I feel that the more you write, the more you end up. The ideas flow when the words are coming out. So just getting that time to build the momentum. Yeah, even if it's just a lunch hour.
And I feel like too, I always remind myself this: writing is an income producing activity. IPAs. You can organize your office. That's not an IPA, but an income producing activity is writing, because without the books, we have no income and we can't keep going. And
Yeah.
carving that time out, I do. I have been on 5 a.m. sprints for a while when I have a deadline, and it's not always,
Wow.
but it it's what we got to do, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I just, even I don't know who it was. Have you read Stephen King's book On Writing? I think it's
Oh yes,
called.
I've read that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think he just said, in one part of it, whether it's just half an hour a day, you're just having the discipline of a regular time to write is more important than, we can't necessarily in our lives take ourselves away for a 2-week retreat and just to go and, write 20,000 words in a fortnight. But I feel that if you can just get those regular snippets, then the story will come, and then the passion to go back to it, will come. So yeah, it's just about regularity rather than kind of the density of the time.
For sure. Well, where else can we find you and support you online?
Well, thank you. I have a website, zoefolbigg.com. I engage most on Instagram. I'm not yet really down with TikTok, and I should be. But I've gone into it actually with Kendra's help earlier this year. I joined. But yeah, Instagram / Zoe Folbigg, Twitter, Facebook author page I've got as well. So everywhere online really. And it's just really lovely hearing from people around the world. So I had a message from Australia this morning, someone who'd read the book and was sitting, just to know that I can travel with these people all around the world, and my story can be in little pockets and corners of the world. That is just a dream, so I'm so happy about that. So yeah, just contact me through Instagram, and it's always really nice to hear.
Well, thank you so much. This was amazing. Guys, follow Zoe here on Amazon so you don't miss out on any of her upcoming releases. Also,
Yes, I've got an Amazon page as well. Sorry, I forgot to say. Follow me on Amazon as well.
absolutely. And leave her a review if you've read any of her books. I know reviews are always lovely to have, so leave her lots of love and stars here on Amazon as well. Thank you so much, Zoe. I cannot wait for your next book. You've already got me so hyped for it. I'm like, I don't even know how it can be better than this, but I don't doubt you at this point. I'm like, buckle up. He's bringing the heat in 2023. So
Thank
excited.
you.
Have to schedule so that we can talk about that one too. And everyone, I saw all your books going up, so I know you guys are ordering, and I'm so excited for you to grab The Three Loves of Sebastian Cooper. So leave her some love, and also share this on social. I know so a lot of people are going to love Zoe's books too. So thank you so much for joining us today, and I will see you on the next one. Stand by one moment. Amazon, thanks so much for watching.
Thank you.